All right, in the last video, I was talking about how I met Eric Eaton, African American artist, writer artist, through my cousin Serge. And as we see here, we see a drawing by Serge, um, a character that he created called Mantis. I'm super happy I have this. A lot of this basically planted the seeds for, you know, what I'm still doing these days. This is a cover of my first comic book superhero group, the Gladiators, which would turn into Gladiator 2/6 in the comic book called The Warning that I published through Image. So basically here, I also mentioned that, I met or I was exposed to Eric Eaton in the 70s. It would have been like later on, like in the late 70s, early 80s. So I start doing my own comic books here. Uh, and I would have to say that the Gladiators were probably inspired by the Teen Titans to a certain degree. Um, and you can see here, I'm trying to basically keep up with Eric Eaton and what he was doing uh, back in the day. Um, and then there's a huge jump in time here. This is solidly in the 80s. Uh, I continued to work on the Gladiators as an idea, and in this particular book, I incorporated some of the teams that Eric Eaton had done. There's a lot of homage and connective tissue here on display. By this point, I think Dark Knight had come out, so my stuff started getting a lot darker. This is like the revolution in comics, the sort of comics became more mature and interesting in my personal opinion. Eric Eaton's Mystery Men. I did this. I'm sure he's never even seen these. I did this comic because I was just like, I think at this stage of the game, I was just trying to become better as an artist, as a writer. And then here's another jump in time. Later on, like this is high school, later on in high school, I think at this point, Watchmen had its effect on me, martial law, um, all of these independent books that came out around that time, really stretching what comics could be, what they can do. And this was volume one of a huge, like, three-ring binder uh, graphic novel of the Gladiators. Each volume was supposed to kind of be centered around a specific time within the group's time period. So this would be early Gladiators, in the second volume, which is coming up here, which is, I mean, kind of crazy stuff here. This is like a horror action uh, era for the Gladiators. In this particular book, what they start to find out is that there are other people out there with special abilities. These guys are the bad guys, obviously. Really dark stuff here. I mean, you couldn't get away with this stuff as a kid. Now they'd put you in a hospital or something like that. But this gave me an opportunity to try to explore color. I was using gouache and watercolor here. And then even later, I'm trying to perfect the sort of superhero look of the Gladiators, really streamlining it, getting it down to its most basic elements. For super soldier, uh, for super soldiers here, which would turn into, like I said earlier, the book called The Warning. Um, and with The Warning, what I did was, instead of like keeping it superhero-esque. I turned them more militaristic. You know, they were like specialists. And in time, they would get into these suits, these kind of superhero-like suits. And I'm still planning on doing that. I'm working on the second volume of The Warning, and I'm going to be carrying over a lot of these early elements into that story. All right, moving on.